Hello, everybody. Noel the Red Devil here. We are here to talk about Eric Ten Hag's press conference against Nottingham Forest. We are back at 2:30 as well to do the live match reaction. So come and join us for that this afternoon. Obviously, some interesting points at the press conference. I always wait for the embargoed section to come out as well. So we have all of the news. But he was asked about Anthony. He asked about the transfer window. He was asked about the injuries. And he was asked about Bruno Fernandes, the captaincy, and the penalty and all of that nonsense. So let's start with the injuries for a second. So obviously we all know that Luke Shaw has a muscle injury, and we've also lost Mason Mount to injury. And he says you cannot avoid injuries in world-class, top-class football. But you've got to find solutions. You've got to do the research to try and find solutions to make sure that it doesn't keep happening all the time. But he says if you look across the Premier League and clubs in general, everybody and all teams get affected with injuries. He was asked about the lack of cover for obviously up top. And I found his comments very intriguing because obviously Mason Greenwood was going to be brought into the conversation, and he was asked would they be dipping into the transfer window for a striker now that Mason Greenwood wasn't coming back. And his answer wasn't what Manchester United fans wanted to hear. He basically said, he said that Anthony Martial is there. Ramos Højlund will be available from next week onwards, which is good news for everybody connected to Manchester United. That is the big news of the press conference, is that Ramos Højlund will be available next week, but won't be available for the Nottingham Forest game, like some people had suggested. Some big fan channels out there suggesting that he was going to play. It turns out that they were talking out of their arse, as they always do anyway. But there you go. He will be available. So he was asked, would they go and get cover? He said, no, we have Ramos there, Ramos Højlund there. We have Tony, and we can also put Rashi there. He was asked about Anthony and about the allegations that have recently come forward, and he said, well, the outcome of the case in Brazil said it all. So I think in Brazil he was found obviously not guilty. But he was asked about the form, and he says, Anthony, he is getting into threatening positions and all that, but he does need to do a lot more. But he is scoring and he is assisting, and he actually brought up about pre-season as well. He was asked by one journalist right at the end, which I thought was a great question, why the team has had such a flat start to the season. And the journalist also alluded to the 3 defeats in pre-season, and one of them was Wrexham, and he says, the manager says, I don't understand why you're bringing the Wrexham game into it. But the academy players, let's be honest. But he said against Wolves they were bad, but they got the 3 points. He said against Spurs we had 35 minutes where we were great and we should have scored. And I agree with him there. We actually should have had 1, possibly 2 goals if we had got the penalty. But he did say that after, the decision went against United on the penalty, the players got distracted and weren't doing their job, because he was asked why the team has started poorly and flat to the season, and why are the players not doing their jobs. And he did say, he said, look, he wasn't making excuses. He said, look, yes, the players didn't perform well against Wolves, but we got the 3 points. 35 minutes into the Spurs game, we played well, but after things didn't go our way, they let that affect their play. And you know what? He was asked, why is it still happening? And that is a valid question. And he didn't really answer it. But what he did say is that, yes, it's a collective responsibility. The players know that they must perform for not just 35 minutes, but for the 90 minutes. But why he has to, and I'll just say this, but why he has to keep telling these players that and demand those standards from those players is beyond me anyway, right? That shouldn't be even a question. When you put that jersey on, right, you should know what that jersey represents, and you give everything on the pitch regardless of what the manager says. You still have to give it all. I don't get this mentality with our team. You know what I mean? You need to be consistent all the way through a game. You can't just switch on for 35 minutes and switch off for the last, 65? Yeah, 65 minutes. You can't do that. Right? You got to perform for 90 plus minutes. I don't like... we still have that mentality in the club. When things don't go our players' way, their heads drop. Now, Erik ten Hag can only do so much on that side of it. There has to be some sort of psychology with our players, because I really don't understand it. But on the penalty and on Bruno approaching the ref, and I agree with him here. I mean, the captain of a football team should be able to approach the referee if they believe a decision hasn't gone their way. I mean, I think that's ridiculous the way the ref treated Bruno last week. But he was asked about Bruno and his captaincy again, because there's some journalists out there have an agenda against Bruno Fernandes. And anytime he seems to do anything or react to anything, he's always getting stick. But when other captains from other clubs or other players from other clubs do the same thing, it's not made much of a big deal out of. He said he's happy with Bruno. He said Bruno was the step-in captain last year, and he's an inspiration, and that's why he's captain. And he did allude to the fact that, you know, that the captain should be allowed to approach a referee. And I do agree. I don't think if you're going to bring this rule in, you don't want the referee to be surrounded, that's fine, right? You can yellow card all the other players if they do that. But I think the captain, and this goes for every club captain, by the way. I'm not just saying this because this is Manchester United. Every club captain should have the right to go and approach the referee and give them their opinion on the decision and why they disagree with it. They should be allowed to do that. What's the point of them being captains then if they can't communicate to the referees? Anyway, he was asked a stupid question by a journalist about did the officials come in and apologise to you like they did for the Wolves game when the officials went in and apologised to the Wolves manager. And he goes, look, these things happen in a season. We weren't happy with the decision at the time, but these things basically even themselves out. And he actually, in answer to the question, did the referees, he says, well, I'll let yous write what yous want. So Erik ten Hag dismissing that completely and not having that nonsense from the journalists. Like, I mean, what a stupid fucking question to ask the manager, right? Bruno was the captain. He said his piece. The manager said his piece at the time. And as the manager says, we move on now. These things will even themselves out. They always do. But he did say that he'd like to see consistency. And I agree with that. And that's the problem that we have in the Premier League. 1 week a handball will be given, and then an identical one won't be given the week after. And so we've got to be consistent here with the handball rule. And the referees and VAR must also be consistent. And there must be more communication as well. And I do agree with Bruno when he said it. These referees need to be doing interviews after games and explain their decisions. right? They do it in some leagues where you can hear the ref, the stadium can hear the ref on why they made a decision, right? They do it in other sports. So I can't see why you can't do it in football, right? Because then that way, that's extra layer of protection for the referees then. Because if the fans can hear what the referee is saying, then they can make up, the fans will hear it live there, and then they'll either, well, some will understand either the decision and some will still do it. But you know what I mean? It's at least it's out there. People know why he made the decision. So yeah, he was asked about the transfer market anyway, and he was saying if the opportunity arises, they will try bring in some players. But again, as he's always said, it has to be the right player with the right mentality. And I agree with him there. Now, some fans out there have accused Erik ten Hag, well, wait till you hear this, of being a Glazer yes man. Right? Erik ten Hag is not a Glazer yes man, you fucking morons, right? He's not. Okay? The bottom line is, right, what you don't understand is that he was given a budget of around 120 million or 150 million, whatever it was, right? We were always told at the beginning of the transfer window, even a couple of months before the transfer window, when the transfer window opened, he'd be given about 150 to 120 to 150 million, and then the rest of the money then he would have to get with player sales, right? And because he can't shift the players now, right? And Donny might be staying, and Martial looks like he's definitely staying and stuff like this. Apparently, he's a Glazer yes man. No, this man is doing what other managers had to do as well. He's making do with the budget that he has, and for him, he's bringing in players that he either knows or he appreciates, right? He's not bringing in players that he would like to bring in, because we know for a fact he wants players like Frankie de Jong and all of these other players that have been linked to us, right? They're the type of caliber players that he actually wants. But he's working within a fucking budget. And I wish people would stop this fucking nonsense. Every time we start off poor, everybody is having a go, right? It's 2 games in. This is the 3rd game. 2 games in, right? It's not looking good. I will admit, I was more optimistic, I'm not going to lie, at the start of the season, right? I really was. But these owners are screwing up another manager. So don't be pointing the anger at Erik ten Hag. He's just making do with what he has, right? And by the way, people are saying, where's this ten Hag ball? He can't play ten Hag ball, sure. How can he play ten Hag ball when he's not being given the right tools to implement his style of football? Right? People are saying that we look disjointed and all that. Of course we do. Of course he do. He's patching up fucking holes left, right, and centre. Right? Because he's not being given the tools. He's not being given the money that he should be given to rebuild this squad. Right? And then players like Harry Maguire now, they know that the club is going to be, and someone made a great point, right, on another channel that I follow. And he made it in the comment section. And it's absolutely spot on when they turned around and says that players like Harry Maguire are probably waiting for the new ownership because they know they'll get a few quid to get out of the club. Right? And that's probably the main reason why Harry Maguire didn't leave to go to West Ham, because he thinks he's going to be in for a big, huge payday then when whoever takes over. The manager needs to be backed and the players need to be backed. Yes, I do agree that the players are underperforming right now and they need to step it up. But I'm just going to say this. We are slow burners, and we have been slow burners for a while now. And we will slow burn, but we will pick up and we will start getting points on the board and we will start playing better, right? As I said, the key for this season for us is to be more consistent than last season, because we would lose heavily and then we'd bounce back. But I don't want to be losing heavily and bouncing back all the time. There needs to be that consistency, and especially away from home, our away record is absolutely fucking terrible. So we've got to get that straightened out. We can get the away record sorted out and start, keep Old Trafford a fortress like it has been. I think it's 20. I think it's 30 games, 32 games or something unbeaten at Old Trafford, right? So Old Trafford is becoming a bit of a fortress. We just have to make sure that the away form, and there seems to be a different mentality away from home as well. And that includes with the manager as well. So he needs to step it up as well. But he did take responsibility himself. And this is why I love this manager, because he did take responsibility. He says, not just the players, it's me as well and my coaching staff. So get behind them, man. So as I said, no striker needed. Ramos will be available next week. And the Tony will be there as well. And as I said, he does back Bruno. He said Bruno was justified to go to the referee. And, as I said, on the Antony stuff, he said that the case in Brazil was the outcome, and he's not really worried about what's being said in the media. And for Antony, it's important that he just focuses on his football and keeps improving. But he does need to improve and step it up now, because I think we all have been very patient with Antony, but he's not the flop that the media make him out to be and rival fans make him out to be. But I will say this, I would like to see, he's good defensively, and I can see that, right? But I need to be seeing more from Antony now going forward, and taking on players a lot more like Garnacho does and Pellistri does. Those two young lads, right? Yes, it was too soon to promote Garnacho and put him into the squad straight away. He should be. We still need to develop him, so we should be picking and choosing the games that he's playing in. But I've got a funny suspicion that the manager won't do that, and that's what's kind of annoying me about Ten Hag. He seems to be very stubborn, and we've had stubborn managers before, but I don't think it'll be Ten Hag's downfall, because he will say it, because he will adapt. He always does, and he will. Just like the players, they will. I know this team will come good, right? Obviously, it's not helping that our transfer window is not being helped by the owners. But I would plead with fans out there, right? We're going to have bad days, right? Not every team is going to win every game. I know we love to do that, right? But even under Alex Ferguson, we didn't win every game, okay? But the one thing that we did do is we fought to the bitter end. That's all I want to see from these players. I don't care if we get beaten week in, week out, right? If we play great and we're dominating, right, that's okay. Okay, of course I'd care if we got beaten week in, week out. But I wouldn't mind, I wouldn't be as harsh about a defeat if we left everything on the pitch. But we don't see everything on the pitch with this team. And, we have in periods. But this is the season now where these lads now need to step up and be more consistent. I'm going to be fair here. I'm going to give them time to warm up into this season. But if we're 7 and 8 games in and we're still playing the same way and their form is absolutely terrible and there's no consistency, then something that's horrible has gone wrong. And remember, can I just remind our Manchester United fans that under our managers, every second season has always ended up being a disaster. And why? Because the manager will come in and work miracles the first season. He'll identify the issues that we have and the players that we need to fix it. And then the Glazers go, sorry, we'll have to give you the wish.com options. Right? Not fully backing the manager. Right? Chasing fucking Frankie de Jong all last summer. And we ended up with egg on our faces. Richard Arnold scene over there, right? Egg on their faces. That's who Eric Ten Hag wanted. Remember that, folks. He wanted Kim Min-jae as well. Remember that, right? And I've seen him play. He's actually a decent fucking defender, right? He would have done their team good. So before you all go after him about Mason Mount and all this, I still don't understand the Mason Mount signing myself. I've got to be honest, right? But don't be criticising him for the players that he's trying to bring players in on a budget, right? And it's because of them. Now, fans today apparently are doing a 60-minute sit-in at the end of the game, right? And while I applaud the fans that are going to do that, that is not going to make a difference. You have been protesting since the day the Glazers took over this club. Even before the Glazers took over, you were protesting this takeover, right? We're now in 2023, and none of that has worked. I'm sorry. Yes, a couple of incidents, just got a couple of things, right? But overall, the main goal was to get these owners out, and the owners are still here. A sit-in is not going to do the trick. I'm sorry, but it's not, right? The one thing that fans have been calling for, and some of you groups refuse to do, and God knows why, right? I'm not saying you have to empty the whole stadium either, but that's what you need to do. You need to empty Old Trafford. Now, I know from a logistics point of view, this would need a lot of organising, but you have plenty of time. You pick a big match, right, that we're playing at home against one of the perceived top 5 or top 6, right? But maybe the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal, or Man City, right? One of those 3 teams, right? Now, not everybody's going to be not everybody that goes to Old Trafford is going to boycott, because some go on day trips, and it might be their first day in Old Trafford, and it's unfair to ask them. But there's a shit ton of season ticket holders. I mean, you hate the Glazers so much, but you all went and got your season tickets, right? But then when any fan that can't afford to go to games or hasn't been to Old Trafford as many times as you guys, and they say to you, well, the only way that you're going to get and embarrass the Glazers is empty Old Trafford, you then get snotty ratty with them all and say that they're not true fans. But yeah, you guys keep, like us all, keep giving the Glazers money, right? So that's not working from a final. You can tell people to boycott jerseys all you want. People are going to buy it, even ones that were at the protests. I remember there was video footage of a protest outside the Megastore, right? And as soon as the protest was over, someone was clever enough to hang around and took video footage, and there was some of the people that were at the protest going into the Megastore and coming out with brand new jerseys, right? Some are hypocrites. So what I'd say to you is this. You want to make a point and embarrass the Glazers on a worldwide stage. Just don't do a sit-in when the cameras are not going to bother, which is our fucking asses, right? You empty the fucking stadium, or you get as many people to leave so there's gaps. The cameras will see that there's loads of seats fucking empty, right? You pick a minute to fucking leave the game, and you walk outside fucking Old Trafford, and you protest outside Old Trafford rather than fucking watch the match. Simple as fucking that, right? You do that 2 or 3 times in big games and walk out, right? You will embarrass them, and people will say, well, there's no point. There's every point. It'll embarrass them internationally. The Glazers, one thing they don't like being done. When the Super League thing and all was leaked, you remember, and that went international, they hate being fucking embarrassed internationally, right? Because they're businessmen at the end of the day, right? And it's not a good look for them. So you embarrass them. You embarrass them as much as fucking possible, right? And that's how you embarrass them, right? Now, the Arsenal game is too soon to do it, right? But the next big match that we have, I think Liverpool is the next one, is it? Or is it Man City? I know we got one of those teams coming up, right? In the next couple of months. You organise a home game, you organise it for one of those, right? And then on the fucking stroke at half time or whatever it fucking is, you decide to leave. You walk out, and as many Manchester United fans as possible walk out of that stadium. And how you get the message across for the next couple of weeks, you get leaflets all around Old fucking Trafford like the staff have been doing, right? And you spread them around and you tell them that the boycott, the walkout of Old Trafford is going to happen on this day, at this minute of the match, or it's going to a half time, and we're all going to walk out. As many of us as we can, please support it, get behind it. Let's get these parasites out. And I'll tell you fucking something, you will do more. Remember when he's got the Liverpool game stopped? Look at the international news. It was shown everywhere, and it was embarrassing to them, right? But imagine they're all there, the Glazers sitting at home, looking at another full Old Trafford, rubbing their fucking hands. And then they go to a half time, then they go to get themselves something in the kitchen. They come back then for the second half. And they see that the fucking stadium is half fucking empty. I'm telling you, man. Right? Protests haven't worked. They haven't, right? He has succeeded in getting some things stopped. But overall, the main goal of these protests have been to get these owners out. And they're still here. So it's been a failure. So, you know, you need to kind of mix it up now. Because the marches, all the marches haven't worked. The sit-ins are not working, right? You can't go and keep stopping games because then the club will keep getting fined. So you can't go about it that way. So you're going to have to empty the stadium. So, you know, this is why I won't give any of these Glazer lot folk a fucking, you know, I won't listen to them. Don't be wasting fans' time if he's not going to do what's necessary, right? And what's necessary is, in reality, is that he's give up all his season tickets next year and don't reapply. But just won't do that, right? So either empty the stadium or stop wasting fans' times, because I tell you one thing, these parasites are going to go nowhere anyway. So make up your mind what you want to do. Anyway, I'll be back at 2:30. The press conference, again, as I said, there wasn't much in the press conference, just the injuries that we have. You know, would there be any more ins? As I said, the press conferences don't really get serious until this transfer window fucking closes. Then it's solely focused on the team and the manager's selection and all of that. But while the transfer window is open, you're going to get these questions. And there are questions, obviously, on Mason Greenwood, the injuries, which we discussed as well. And he says, you know, it's up to the club and the medical team and stuff like that to find solutions. And, you know, again, he's brought in some new medical staff as well. So, you know, and his comments on the forward line were a bit worrisome because, you know, if he can't see what fans can see, which is that we're short up front. And I mean striker position, right? Because he said, we have plenty of cover in the front positions, but the journalist was talking specifically about the striker role, and we are short there. Anthony Martial is not going to last a game, let alone a season, right? We can't rely on him. And then here's another kicker. What happens if our young striker who we're bringing in now, who's going to be from next week onwards, is going to be available, gets another injury? Right, we've already seen that Rashford doesn't work up front, so we are screwed, Eric. Right, and I know it's not all your fault, and I know people are calling you a Glazer yes man. I know you're not a Glazer yes man, and you're working within a budget. But for fuck's sake, we do need another striker, mate. You need to wise up. We do need another striker, and we need a couple of midfielders as well. We need 3 players, and well, we need 4 in reality to come in. Right, we need a centre back. Right, forget about the. I know everybody wants to bring in another fucking wing back position, right? But right now we need that's more important than centre back, right? We need a CDM, we need a CM, and we need a fucking striker, right? So that's what we need in reality, right? And we're not going to bring in 4 players, right? We're bringing in a fucking goalkeeper, right, for backup now. Right, so we're not even looking at other positions. Then we're linked to Amrabat all the time, but none seems to be happening there. Anyway, I'm going to go because I have to get me dinner cooked now in 45 minutes before I go live again. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to head off. But we are back at 2:30, guys. So join me for that. We're going to be, we'll have the team news, hopefully for you as well. We will have the team news because they always drop it an hour before again, don't they? So we'll have the team news at 2:30. We'll give a reaction to the team news. And then we will be watching, well, I'll be watching the game live on another screen here. And I'll be reacting and giving my opinion to you guys. If you just want to come into the chat a little bit later on and give me your opinions on the game. We will be back later on, folks. Thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. And as I said, we'll be back at 2:30. So come and join me. We're not long away. 45 minutes, folks. And it's already up on the channel. So if you want to go in, pop in, go on into the chat. And if I see any of you in the chat while I'm cooking the dinner, I'll give you a bit of a nod as I do. So talk to you soon. Have a good one, folks. Bye-bye.